All right, so I came over here because I was like, maybe it's one bad valve cover gasket. It's not. They do both look worn around the tube seals. So for now, that's what I'm going with. And this says, instead of a spark plug video, this is going to be a valve cover gasket video because it makes 0 sense to put fresh spark plugs in a failed valve cover gasket. So here we are. I don't know how well this will show. Probably not well. But you can kind of see the oil down in there. You can't see. All right, so I'm going to be disconnecting this mass airflow sensor. I'll be moving this line so I can take the airbox out. All right. Ouch. Ow, that hurt. All right. So I'm up here getting this off. I took a screwdriver and ran the hose backwards. And there's this line in the way. All right. So it is those 2 screws and then it just pulls out. It actually looks like this air filter is relatively new. Now I can move this wiring harness kind of out of the way. Does the rest of this come out? I mean, I'm sure it does. It's just... Okay, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time messing around with that. I'll come to it later if it has to come out then. This is a camshaft position sensor. It has to come out. And the way that I do these, if you push them back here, I mean, this is almost a 20-year-old car. These things tend to break, so I like to get a pick. And if you go on the inside, you can like pluck it up. It'll move. So that's how I do that personally. There's also a sensor right here. This is the passenger side. So this sensor that's right here has to come disconnected. And that is a little bit more difficult to get to. I mean, I guess it technically doesn't have to come disconnected, but it's going to make my life a lot easier. And there's just absolutely no room to see down here. This is crazy. Like, I can't even tell what kind of connector this is. And it's so oily from where the valve cover's been leaking. Okay, so this connector ended up not being as much of a problem as I thought. It's just a smaller version of this. I've done the same thing. It's actually very oily in there from where the valve cover gasket has been leaking. So I'll have to go through and clean up all of these wiring connectors before I put everything back together. Now let me position this out of the way. I don't know if that's gonna stay, but whatever. Okay, so I've always liked Audis. I've had an A4, which has been on the channel some time ago. A family member has one. Now I have this one. I will say the only thing that I do not like about Audi is the use of Torx. It's a pain in the butt. And I also don't like the triple square stuff, but whatever. Triple squares are a little bit more of a nightmare than the Torx. If you have an Audi, what is your, I don't know, least favorite thing about them? The A4 had, you know, it's only a 4-cylinder, so it had a lot more room in the engine bay. But this car is more fun, faster, etc. So I'm not gonna complain too much. I've always wanted this car. I've had a lot of dream cars, and I don't know, this has been on the list since like, I don't know, 2007 or 2008, and I finally, this one popped up and it was meant to be. It just needs some TLC. This wiring harness is gonna give me a stroke. Oh my goodness, just stay out of the way. All right, these last two down in here are gonna be kind of a problem to get to, we'll see. They look like they're gonna be a pain. Oh, that one's not tightened at all. That's fantastic. Let me see how I can get to this last one. This one down here, in the very, very corner was not tightened up at all. That is concerning. These should be torqued down to like, I don't know, 10 Newton meters or some such. Some of these did not get close to that at all. Anyways, there's gonna be a lot of just loosening these bolts. I'm not going to bore you with all of it. I will get these loosened and then I will be back when I'm ready to take this off. All right, I got all the bolts backed out. I don't think I said, but they are T30s. Now to get the valve cover off, which probably give me a migraine, but let's go. I'm going to gently pry around the corners. Not hard, I'm not going to score the metal or bend it or anything like that. Just trying to knock the valve cover, like get it unsealed. Making some progress. I think I have a little bit more to go on this screw back here. I'm catching on something. Guess maybe I need to get these out a little more. Ouch, that is super greasy. I'm getting somewhere. This one has a few threads left. That should be it. Nope, still got one. All right, now to get this thing out of here. There we go. I'll have to clean all this up. And that valve cover, it actually sets on like this. This would be front, that's back. So yeah, there's warp on there for sure. And that's definitely why I was getting oil in the spark plug well. All right, so I'm gonna get this gasket off. Here we go. Oh, it's ripping, it's so brittle. Oof. These corners are kind of tough to get. All right, gasket is off and this is dirty. I'm gonna have to clean it up. I'm never gonna get all this grime off, so I'm just going full send with what I've got. I've got the new gasket here. I'm gonna be putting the new gasket on. It goes on like so, like this. So I'm just gonna start pressing it in place. So these bolts have like washers on each side that keep them in place. This has to go around it. So it has to go around each one of them like that. And then when you tighten it down, you know, it'll kind of pull into place a little more. So I'm just pushing on the back as far forward as I can, and then just situating that around the bolt itself. I did notice in the old gasket, this right here would be the top side. I did notice that in this corner, the gasket was broken, it was split. So that was certainly part of the issue as to why it was running down the valve cover. This one's a little bit of a pain. There we go. This one's kind of being a pain as well. There we go. I'm gonna get them all, I'm gonna get the gasket all around the bolts, and then I'm going to go back through and push this down evenly, but it doesn't make sense to do that until I get all of the gasket around all of the bolts. I've got the gasket around all of the bolts. I'm gonna go back through and just make sure this is all pressed down into place. So now that I've got the new gasket on, I'm going to put it in place. I've read some people put RTV on there, so I'm not. If it needs it again, I'll do the job again. So I'm gonna get this into place gently. Okay, and I also cleaned this valve cover off to the best of my ability. Let's see, how did I get this out of here? Like so, like that. Now I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna start tightening up these bolts. I'm gonna get them all kind of into where they go, and then I will go through and tighten them up. All right, all of those are in place. Now I will go back through and I will tighten them down. I'm going to kind of go in a crisscross every which way kind of pattern to make sure it's all down evenly. And this one, of course, is a problem to get to. And the torque spec is 10 Newton meters. And it would be much more helpful to have long Torx sockets, but I don't. All right, I do believe that I have gotten all of them. I'm going to go over them and make sure, though. So I'll just go around and then through the middle, because as you kind of torque things down, sometimes the other ones can, you know, change as you move along. So far, so good. See? That's why I always double check. All right, and that accounts for all of them. So this side is officially done. Now I'm going to move over to the driver's side, which will likely be more of a pain for me. We'll see. Okay, so moving on over here to the driver's side. Obviously, coil pack's disconnected. This gets disconnected. This here slides over here and it's got this little zip tie thing. I popped this out and slid this up. That gives about this much slack. Not a lot. So anyways, I also disconnected the coolant reservoir. I used this, suctioned some out in a different container, and then I disconnected this line here and let it kind of spill into that container. Some did, you know, it dripped a little bit, but I have this propped up here so it doesn't drain, and I have this strapped to the hood strut to keep it over here out of the way and in place. That way the coolant that's left in there does not spill everywhere. That's what I'm going with right now. If I need to make adjustments as I go, then I will. That's where I'm at right now. I'm going to start loosening the bolts on the valve cover. This here, these connectors, there's a brown one and a black one right behind it. It connects to this part of the wiring harness. That's why this won't come up more than that. I may have to figure out something there. It depends on the amount of slack that I need to get this in and out. I don't know. We'll see when I get to that point. Obviously, this is going to have to come out, but I'm doing that after I get the bolts loosened because I don't want anything to fall down in there. And I have got to find my tripod mount for this GoPro because I have lost it and I'm using like a sticky suction mount right now and it's awful and it makes my life more difficult. Anyways, I'm going to be loosening up these same bolts around the perimeter of the valve cover as I did on the other one. That will be the same. And I'm sorry, I've got the sniffles. It is super, super cold in here. But not as cold as it's going to be like next week, so I have to get this done while I can. All right, I expect the bottom ones over here to be a bit of a pain. You can kind of see one here. There's one right here under my finger that you can kind of see. I will tell you what though, they could not have put this engine any more forward in this car. My goodness, there's literally no room up here. That is one, you know, the only benefit to the 4-sill was like there was a ton of engine bay room compared to this. That's the only upside. All right, that one's loose. Oh, lovely. That one was not tightened up at all. The crazy thing is you can't see what I'm doing and also neither can I. This is, it's pretty much by feel. I've decided I liked the system that I had on the other side better where I loosen them all and then go through and pop them up. So that's what I'm reverting to. That seemed to be, I don't know, maybe it was faster, maybe it wasn't, maybe it's all in my head. You know, the crazy thing is I get so caught up in what I'm doing, I forget that I have electric tools. Now, I wouldn't use these to tighten it down by any means because this locks out at way over torque spec, but to loosen them up, Time saver. I don't know that it will help me on these ones down here at the bottom, but I guess we'll see. I'm gonna do the same thing as last time and gently pry around because it's pretty stuck on there. I'm not doing this hard enough to harm the metal at all, just enough to get it to rise. All right. Oh, and something I just noticed. This side also has that bottom connector, same as the other side. So I'm going to use the pick to disconnect that, although I do believe that it's going to be more difficult than the other side by far. Oh my goodness. All right. And that actually gave me the slack that I was curious about in order to get this off, at least down there. Over here in this corner that I was talking about, the brown and black connectors, not so much. All right, gonna take the dipstick out. I'm gonna put a piece of tape over it, that way nothing falls down in there. All right, that's up. And it's out. That wasn't, you know, so bad, but yeah, definitely a little more difficult than the other side. All right, let me kind of see where this side was leaking from. Oh yeah, this side was leaking in this far corner back by the firewall pretty severely. Same as the other side. The other side was just kind of leaking all along the bottom, but. All right, so I've got the valve cover for the driver's side cleaned off to the best of my ability. It looks much better than it did. And I've got the new gasket right here. This one is a little bit different. It's got this extra piece on it that pops into this right here that seals. So it will snap on like this, and then when you put it on, this will seal that hole off. And I'll show you the hole that I'm talking about. Anyways, yeah, I'm gonna start putting this on. Same procedure as the last one. Gonna make sure I get it through all of the bolt areas, which is a little bit challenging, but not too bad. And that just pops down like that. It's not anything special. I don't know if you can see that, but you can kind of maybe see where the bolt is through. And so it wouldn't go like this one because it'll just push the seal out. Oh, I see what they were talking about. This seal, anyways, I was reading on the forums that these new seals don't fit the old valve covers and that you need to buy a new valve cover, which isn't cheap, just to fit this seal. And this is why, because this is perfectly round and this is not. I'll get the old gasket to show you. Okay. So this is the top part. This is that extra little piece that plugs the hole. This is that spark plug hole that I was talking about. This one is not completely round, and this one is. So that's fun. I guess that I'm going to trim it. I'll do an experiment, I'll trim it. Because it's pretty ridiculous to buy an entire new valve cover if you don't have an actual valve cover issue to get a seal. I don't know. Whatever. Okay, so I'm going to cut it here and here because it'll go around these channels. We'll see how this goes. I'll cut it a little big at first and then I can trim it down. I didn't expect to be having to do this kind of surgery, but here we are. So I don't know if you can see that because GoPro is awful, but I'm gonna trim down just a little bit more. I'm gonna do that with a razor blade. And I'll put this underneath, that way it's all good. All right. Take a little at a time because I can always cut more. I can't put it back together. That actually fits very well. Cool. And this one I don't have to take off much at all. And I'm being very careful not to cut the other part of the gasket with the razor blade. That will fit. Cool. If you're doing this project on your RS4, then, you know, look into new style versus old style valve cover gaskets. And I will definitely update as time goes on. After I've driven the car for a little bit, I will update if cutting that works or fails miserably. When I got this car, it came with a lot of parts that needed to be replaced, which are projects that I'll be doing. So the valve covers was one of the projects, one of the maintenance things that needed to be done on the car. Yeah. Let me make sure all the bolts are through the gasket. They are. I had covered this up when I went inside last night. This is day 2 of this project, just only because I'm taking my time and cleaning all the oil off of everything and, you know, trying to make it in better condition than it was when I opened it up. All right, I've already cleaned the surface that the gasket mates to. I cleaned it with some brake parts cleaner. I'm going to wiggle the gasket back in place. And this is that extra little piece I was talking about. It goes right here. I don't exactly remember how I got this out of here. Okay, the firewall side is down. Now I'm just gonna get this side down. There we go. All right, both valve cover gaskets have been replaced. They're both tightened down, torque to spec, 10 Newton meters each bolt. I double checked all the bolts, made sure they were tight in place. There's this side and this side. All right, I hope you have found this video helpful. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe.